everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to take a look at the Transformers 2 Series Gamer Edition 06 Voyager class Starscream. Let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below. Is it a pickup or a pass? Now let's take a look at the figure's packaging. So here we have the packaging. Starting at the very front, we have Transformers on the side. We have Studio Series in black text with Starscream in white text with a white Decepticon symbol. We have Gamer Edition in silver text with the G and the E in blue text. We also do have 06 because this is the 6th figure, a part of the Studio Series Gamer Edition subline with a really cool game controller button done in silver and blue with a really nice render of Starscream in his robot mode from the War and Fall for Cybertron video game. We also do have a really nice opening one displaying the figure in the packaging. We also do have the Transformers War for Cybertron video game logo at that top corner there with another one at the top of the box as well. And if we do look at the side of the packaging, really just that same kind of image or render from the front of the box, again just kind of closer up or zoomed in of Starscream again. Again, we have 06, that same game controller button, and Studio Series going down the side of the packaging with Voyager class in several different languages. And if we do look at the back of the box, the figure transforms in 27 steps. There's a product shot of him and his robot, his alt mode, and displayed with his included backdrop. And there's also a brief description or bio saying Starscream and the Seekers are tasked with reactivating an ancient energon bridge. And that description or bio is written in several different languages. And now for the final side of the packaging, again, really just that same kind of pose or image of Starscream in his robot mode. And that is pretty much it for the packaging. So let's now take a look at the included backdrop. So here we have the included backdrop. This is the Fuel of War backdrop. Let's now quickly take a look at the details. Starting on this side flap here, we have Gamer Edition and Transformers going down the side with that same game controller button we've seen before. Now looking at the middle or main section of the backdrop, of course, we have the small little square or plaque where the figure can stand or be whatever pose you would like it to be in with that War for Cybertron logo there. And if we do look at the actual background or backdrop section, of course, we have some really cool kind of ruins, the city on Cybertron with some falling over buildings, some bridges, some crates of energon. And I love how you can actually see the sky or space from Cybertron. I think that looks really cool. And of course, the final flap here, we have 06 with that same game controller button, and Studio Series going down the side of that flap. And since this is a background or backdrop, you actually can grab the included figure, that being Starscream, and place him there like that. And I think that looks really cool. That is pretty much it for the included backdrop. Let's now get into the review. Here we have Voyager class Starscream in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very top with that head sculpt. You look at the really nice dark blue for the entire helmet section with the really cool kind of exhaust, sort of like venting panels on the sides of the head with a really nice dark red for the eyes and the gunmetal gray for the entire face, chin, and mouth and nose. I do like the really nice metallic bright purple paint apps for these kind of collar shoulder pieces here with the really nice dark red as well, and this really cool kind of spike at the top as well. And I love how all the main areas of Starscream with this figure are actually really big and beefy and bulky, because typically we do know Starscream as kind of a slender, very easily, very flexible figure and character, but this one actually looks very strong and very intimidating, as you can actually see that with the shoulders and the forearms, very big, beefy, and bulky. I do like the really cool kind of spikes or panels there with the really nice forearm guard and the silver, and I actually do quite like the open hand expression, because typically we do get the closed fist, which is fun all for like a deluxe or a core class, but I actually do like the open hand. No, there's no finger articulation. I actually just like how they took the time to actually sculpt in the individual fingers and the thumb. I think that's really, really cool. And of course, if we do look at that chest, I definitely think there's going to be a few comments talking about the chest or the cockpit specifically and the wings, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the review for this section for Starscream's robot mode. I do have some thoughts, but I have to say just right now, I'm not as bothered about it as I first expected when I actually first saw the reveal of this figure. But I do like the bright orange for the actual cockpit on the chest with a really nice silver and red striping detailings on the side. And I think a small Decepticon symbol at the top would have been a pretty cool place to put one, but unfortunately they did not take that opportunity. Always probably one of my favorite design aspects or kind of design cues of the War for Cybertron / Fall of Cybertron design of Starscream has been his feet. I actually really love how his feet sort of form the thrusters in the jet mode. You can actually see them at the bottom. There's these huge kind of engine pieces or thruster sections that actually form his feet, which I always thought that was so cool. And there's actually some mech ports or, of course, Blastovic piece compatible ports there. So if you wanted to, you could actually plug some in there and have them flying in the sky over Cybertron, fighting some Autobots, which I think is really cool. But taking a look at the kind of side profile there, overall looking pretty good, pretty compact. We actually do have some really nice wing design with a really nice classic Decepticon symbol there, done in kind of a silverish purple mixture, and I do like the dark red again with the really cool wings. And we have some more gunmetal gray paint apps. And if we do look at the actual back of the figure, overall not too bad, very compact, very little hollow gaps, no waffling, no extra panels. He does have somewhat of a backpack, but it's really just his wings. There's kind of two different sets of wings there, which actually look pretty cool. It makes the figure look very dynamic, very angular, and I actually do quite like it. So no complaints as far as the design goes. But I do want to talk about proportions. That is one thing I do have to mention right now. So I think you can probably already guess what the specific areas I'm going to talk about. It's the cockpit and the wings. So as I just mentioned a little bit ago, yes, I still do have a problem with them, but I'm actually not as bothered by them as I used to be, because of course with the first images, the stock photos of this figure when it was first revealed, a lot of people were like, wow, that is really bad. I still don't like it, but again, it's not as bad as I first expected or thought it was. The cockpit is too big in my opinion, especially if you do look at the render on the box, which I just took a look at the beginning of the review. If you skip that section where I'm taking a look at the box, make sure you go back and watch that, because if you actually do look at the actual render, this cockpit you see here is very inaccurate. The actual game render and design of Starscream, the cockpit is very thin and very small and very long. This one's pretty kind of circle oval shaped, which of course they have a full right to kind of change designs, tweak them, make them a bit more modern if they want to. That was probably their decision. They just wanted to do that. I think it's okay. Again, I think the initial images probably just showed it to be worse than it actually was. And of course, on the topic of the wings, I still do think they are too small for both the robot and the alt mode, of course, which I'll show later in the review after transformation. I just don't think they're as small as I initially thought. I do think they should be bigger, but they're not as small as I initially expected or thought they were. But as for articulation, I definitely think it's up with the same level of a Voyager class. So of course, starting at that head, it can look up and down, tilt slightly side to side, and of course look left and right. And there is a bit of few pieces you can sort of kind of customize and move. So the color pieces are actually packaged separately, so make sure you take those out of the box before you throw the box away, because of course these are very important pieces for the appearance and the design of the figure and the character. But they're actually on a small little peg or kind of mushroom peg, so of course they can swivel in and out, really of course whatever angle you like to do. And I'll cover the wing articulation in just a sec. So the arm can move out and in, forward and back. There is a bicep rotation. There is actually a double jointed elbow bone, which is super cool, and that is used for transformation, but I'm still really glad they added that because it helps a lot with his poses, and it's so fun to pose this figure. And of course, just kind of fully extending the arm out on that joint. He does have a bicep rotation, and if you do grab the hand, he does have a wrist swivel or hand swivel, which is really good to see. And if we do move the arms out of the way, he does have a waist rotation. Unfortunately, it is very hindered or not very good, so it really stops pretty much at the thigh because this piece is so chunky and big. The cockpit pretty much kind of rams into it and it prevents it from going any further. You sort of can kind of move some pieces to make it, kind of rotate and move more, because of course there is rotation at the top of the leg. So if you do want to do sort of a specific pose using the waist rotation, if you do kind of, move and sort of use that rotation at the top of the leg, you probably could get a bit of a better range of motion for the waist. But of course, with moving nothing, that's as best as you can really get. But with of course the legs, they can kick forward and back, also out to the side. There is a rotation at the top of the leg, as I just mentioned, and of course there is a knee bend there to a very good degree, and if you want to, you actually can lock the legs into place. There is a tab if you want to have it secure like that. It's a very strong connection. And of course, there is an ankle pivot to a very good degree, and I actually really like how they added a bit of filler plastic there, so of course you can use the ankle pivot and not have a huge space. But let me just quickly straighten up the figure. And as for, of course, the wing articulation on the back, is just a simple hinge, so of course they can hinge forward and back to a pretty good degree. I actually like to have them angled because it just makes it look a bit more dynamic and angular, but that is it for articulation. So I think probably the main area that is needed for improvement is the waist, but as I said, you probably can kind of, finesse it and tweak it to be a bit better, but with moving nothing out of the way, it could be better considering this is a Voyager. If this was a deluxe or core class, I would be like, okay, it's just a deluxe, but this is a Voyager, so not the greatest. But as for accessories, I'm actually very impressed. Really good accessories. So for the first one, he does, of course, come with this really nice sniper rifle. I actually do quite like it. You could have this act as like his null ray if you wanted to, but I'm actually really just going to use this as his sniper rifle, which is blast piece compatible, in case you're wondering. I think probably my main complaint about this weapon is the lack of paint, because it's really just gray plastic. There is zero paint on it, but the scope work is very impressive. I actually do like the really nice barrel, of course, a very long barrel, really nice scope with tons of surface detailing, just added stuff there, and of course the scope. Really impressive. So this can store in a lot of different ways. I'm actually going to put off to the side because I do want to show one quick way. So since this figure is a part of the Stu Series Gamer Edition subline, one way, which this is kind of one of the main gimmicks of Gamer Editions, you can actually remove his form like that. So you actually can attach the null ray or the sniper, whatever you consider the weapon to be. You actually can attach it using that post and the support, which I'm not going to show because it doesn't look very good in my opinion. And I actually typically don't store the weapons using this feature for pretty much any of my Gamer Edition figures. I usually just have it maybe stored off to the side like in a bag or in their hand like you typically store a weapon. But I just wanted to show you that is still a feature. I'm pretty sure they're going to try and make every single Studio Series Gamer Edition figure have this feature, even if it doesn't look very good, which, like I said, it does not look very good. But there is also actually some back storage. So if you do flip to the back of the figure, there is ports on either side. It does not matter which side you use. You can just use that post and port system, and you can store the sniper rifle in the back if you want to, which looks pretty cool. And of course, just removing that, we can actually flip back to the front, and there is the typical classic way, which is just, of course, plugging it into his hand, which I definitely do prefer. Of course, for the time being, I'm really just going to have it kind of going straight down. If I had the time, if I wasn't recording, I could do a much more dynamic pose with it. But as for his final weapon, it's actually this huge battle mace, which if you're a longtime viewer of the channel, I love melee weapons, axes, shields, mace, really get me excited. And I actually really do like it. I do have a few complaints though, unfortunately, since this is actually kind of a rubber material, sort of like the cockpit. It actually came somewhat bent. You can actually see these spikes are a bit bent. Also, there is some paint chipping going on. You can actually see the tips are a bit chipped. I think that was probably from it being packaged. I think it was like rubbing against the box, and it got chipped during shipping or transit. So that's a bit unfortunate. That's really just kind of a QC issue. Not really anything I can do. I guess if I wanted to, I could paint it, but I typically don't really customize my things. And yeah, that would be pretty hard to match that specific color. But I do like the mace. There's just a few unfortunate kind of QC tolerance problems here and there, but this can pretty much store in all the same ways the sniper rifle can, of course, except the actual, Gamer Edition gimmick where you can remove the forearm. This one does not actually involve with the mace. It does not, it's not compatible with that feature, but it can store on the back, and of course, it can store in the hand like so, just that post and port system. And I would advise to bend at the elbow because it's a very heavy weapon, and pretty much try and have it as high up as possible, because unfortunately in my copy, the tolerances, a few of the joints are a little loose and sometimes the arm can droop with that heavy weapon. But that is pretty much it for accessories. And now for some comparisons. Here we have the Voyager class Starscream compared alongside the Deluxe class of Barricade. And let me know in the comments of all three Decepticons Hasbro has released in this Gamer Edition subline so far, which one is your favorite? And now for one final comparison, here he is with the Deluxe class Cliffjumper. And that is pretty much it for comparisons. So let's now get down to transformation. So now for transformation, what I'm going to do is start at the very top with the figure. You're going to grab these small little collar/shoulder pieces and just swivel them in like so. You can repeat the exact same step and process on the other side, just swivel it in like so. Just make sure these entire collar/shoulder pieces are facing straight up and down. If they're angled out just slightly, it'll mess up the transformation later on. Now you're going to turn to the back of the figure, the entire backpack here. So if you do like to have the wings angled out like I do, as you can see here, just make sure you straighten them out very easily with these hinges. Just straighten them out like that. And then you're actually going to turn to the top of the backpack. As you can see, there's this small crevice here, or sort of gap in between these two sections. You're actually going to split it, which can be a bit difficult because this piece actually does rotate. That really comes into play later in the transformation. Of course, I'll show that step in just a sec, but you're just going to split that and just hinge this entire section down. And how this is tabbed into place is there's a slot right there and a tab right there. And of course, once you've done that, you can actually grab this entire other wing piece. And of course, this entire section will kind of swivel and move out of the way to accommodate some space to actually have this rotate by. But there we go. And then of course, you're going to repeat all those steps I just did on the other half. So you're just going to go to the top here, split this entire panel section and hinge it down like that. And then, of course, you can grab this entire little wing piece here, just kind of swivel this down like so. And then, of course, into that other wing to sort of form this kind of top, like, pointed section. This is supposed to be kind of like the top fin of the Tetra Jet Alt Mode, which I think looks pretty cool. And then you're actually going to grab the entire backpack section and pretty much separate it from the back of the figure. So just hinge this entire section down. As you can see, there is 2 tabs on the inside of the backpack and, of course, 2 corresponding slots right there. And then once you've done that, you can actually grab this entire section here, open this up like so. There we go. And then you can fold out this entire cone piece and close it up like that and tab that into place. And then what you can do is actually grab this entire section here. It's on that mushroom peg. Just swivel this entire section up like that, and you can repeat the exact same step with the other side. I'm actually going to do this one off cam because unfortunately on my copy it has a tendency to pop off constantly, and it's actually a huge pain to get back on. It's a really long process, of course, and you do not want to see that. So I'm just going to quickly go off cam, swivel this entire section up, and then of course we'll continue with the transformation. So now that we have that panel swiveled up, we're actually going to go to the front of the figure now to continue the transformation. So what we're going to do is actually go to the arms. They're actually on a double jointed elbow. You're actually going to hinge it back like so. It's actually a really tight joint, so make sure you have a good grip on it. So again, just hinge this entire section back like so. And then you can go to the shoulder. You're actually going to grab the entire arm and rotate it or hinge it up like that. Hinge it up like that. You can then go to the head. You're going to rotate it all the way around. So now the front of the head or the face is facing the back of the figure. You can actually fold in the toes. A very simple process. They'll actually just kind of tuck into the thruster, sort of become a part of the thruster. Then you can actually grab the entire chest section. You're just going to hinge this entire section up and out like that. You can actually go to the top. You're going to open up the entire cockpit, and you can actually push the entire nose cone down, and it will sort of course, kind of attach or complete with the entire cockpit section there. And it's actually on a hinge. You're going to drop this entire section down, and then you can actually grab the head. It's on a hinge. It's a very tight one. You're just going to grab this entire section here, and it's going to tuck inside this entire cavity. So just grab this entire section and hinge it inside the cockpit like so. Tuck that in there. And then you can close this entire section up. And then you can grab the entire front of the jet, and you're just going to hinge this entire section up until those collar pieces just kind of slide into those grooves as you just saw. And then you're going to go to the arms. They're actually on several pin hinges right here. So you're just going to hinge this entire section in. As you can see, this entire blue section will actually kind of go in that small little cavity or slot like that. You can do the exact same process on the other side. So just drop down the entire shoulder and arm, and then you can actually swivel this in using the bicep rotation. There's actually a slot right there and a tab right there. So you're just going to tab both arms together like that and just get all of that lined up and tabbed into place. There we go. And now we're going to focus on the legs. So you're going to get this small little fin or kind of wing, fold that out and fold that out. There we go. And now you can actually use this rotation at the top of the leg. I actually find it pretty useful, so you can actually kind of go into the inner portion of the leg. You can actually go to the back, flip this entire panel out and up like so. And what you're going to want to make sure to do, if it hasn't already, you're actually going to kind of unlock the knee. So there's a tab right there and actually goes into the slot pretty much on the inside of this panel. Sometimes you can of course have them unlocked because you might want to have them in like a squatting position. So of course if it's already unlocked, you do not need to do that step. So now you can actually hinge this entire section down. You're going to have that tab actually align with that entire little slot right there. So just collapse that up and align that up like that. And there's a tab there and there is a slot right there. That's just going to tab into place. And then of course you can rotate the entire leg back to its usual configuration or position. You're going to repeat the exact same steps on the other leg. So just flip this entire panel out like so. Again, make sure to unlock the knee. And then of course just hinge this entire section down. I'll line up that tab with that slot. And then, of course, fold up that panel, tab it into place, and then, of course, just straighten up the thrusters or the legs, whatever you want to call it. And as you can see, there is several slots and tabs with the entire backpack and, of course, the legs. And there's that huge hinge here. Just going to drop this entire section back and align up all of those connections and tab them into place. Make sure everything's nice, and secure and squeezed together. And that is pretty much it for transformation. So let's now take a look at the details. So here we have Starscream in his jet mode. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the very front, we have some really nice bright orange for the entire front cockpit section here with a really nice nose cone. Mostly done this really nice kind of glossy red color. It's like the really nice metallic purple paint apps at these front sections here. I'm not a big fan of this huge kind of open gap section. It's kind of ugly because you can actually see sort of slots and some screws from the robot mode. So it would have been nice if there was like an extra panel to kind of cover that up and make it a bit neater. But I do like the wings with a really nice classic Decepticon symbol and the really cool kind of fin sort of pointed section. I still do think the wings definitely should be bigger. I think the size of them does somewhat work for the robot mode, but for the jet mode, I think they are way too small, especially considering how big this jet mode is. It's actually quite large for a Voyager class figure. But of course, taking a look at this entire back section here, we actually have the really cool kind of point or sort of tip at the top of the jet or the Tetra Jet mode. I do like the Decepticon symbols on both sides with the really nice dark blue. I do like the really cool thrusters on this back section here with a small little fin. And of course, these back sections or these thruster sections are actually blast piece compatible, so you can attach some really cool effects pieces and have them blast off in a battle if you want to. And of course, this is the bottom and this is the top. And now for some comparisons, here he is with the deluxe class cliff jumper. I think they overall look pretty cool side by side. Here he is with Barricade. Overall, pretty cool, in my opinion. And these are actually two very big vehicle modes. I mean, this one's a deluxe, and it's almost the same size as Voyager class Starscream. And Voyager class Starscream, his jet mode is actually quite large as well. But two very good alt modes. And now for one final alt mode comparison, here he is with the leader of the Decepticons, that being Megatron. Two very iconic, popular Decepticons, and I really do hope maybe we can get more Seekers using this mold. Also, I really do hope we can get Soundwave. That's kind of the last, main Decepticon we really need, because we got Megatron, we got Starscream. I definitely think, and I hope Soundwave is the next Decepticon we get in this Gamer Edition subline, but overall, very cool side by side. And that is pretty much it for comparisons. So now for accessory storage, it's not the best, but you do have to keep in mind, his accessories are quite odd in shape. He has a really long sniper rifle and he has a huge mace, and he transforms into a jet, so there's really not that many places he can just store those for it to actually look good. Really, my only idea to actually have the sniper rifle look good is maybe if they could have included two, you could put each sniper rifle like on each wing. I think that would have been a good idea, but he only comes with one, so it would look a bit odd to only put one on one wing, and of course the other one being kind of bare. But where they actually show you storing these weapons is you actually use this post, and of course that port. It's actually the same connection for the back storage in the robot mode. You just plug those into place like so, and then you flip to the other side, and of course you use this huge mace, that huge post and port system, and you just plug that into place as well. It's sometimes doesn't fully connect in. You just gotta fully press it in there. There we go. So there's the accessory storage. It's not the greatest. Typically, I have the jet mode kind of bare with the no accessories because I think that's the best look for it. But that is pretty much it for Starscream's Tetra Jet Alt Mode. Let's now get down to the final thoughts. Now for my final thoughts on the Transformers 2 series Gamer Edition 06 Voyager class Starscream. I have to say, I think this figure is overhated, and while it does have flaws, it might be my favorite Decepticon Hasbro has released in this Gamer Edition subline so far. I also do want to add a bit of a warning, and make sure you take out the separately packaged small shoulder or collar pieces out of the packaging before you throw the box away. Now, starting in the Ramona, I think Hasbro did a great job taking Starscream's video game design and translating it into figure form. I like all the cool angles and shapes in the figure's design, mixed with the really nice dark blue, gunmetal gray, and red paint apps. My one major complaint with the figure is the proportions of the jet wings. They are way too small for both the robot and alt mode. Another area is the jet cockpit on the chest. It is way too large and accurate to the game, and it's weirdly made out of rubber. I really don't know why they did that. As for accessories, Starscream includes one sniper rifle with really nice scope work, but could use some added paint apps. And the final accessory is a huge battle mace with really cool purple spikes. Articulation and posability are really good, almost up with the same level as a leader class. Transformation is pretty involving but still fun to do. As for his alt mode, Starscream transforms into a Cybertronian Tetra Jet, which looks really cool with the futuristic design and the surface detailing. As for accessory storage, both the mace and the sniper rifle can be stored on top of the jet. What do you think of this figure? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you next time.